should be fast and furious if Aaron is going to win, or slow and steady if Tom wins. But the mono red decks are actually notorious for being able to play longer games these days, thanks to cards like Experimental Frenzy and a lot of these Chandra Planeswalkers that generate a ton of value over time.
And this was the matchup that Tom Kessler did play. Barich's list is quite a bit different from Echeverria's, though Kessler was kind of put in the lock by Chandra Acolyte of Flame, generating a ton of value. We see Barich on the play here as well. Gidu Lava Runner into Runaway Steamkin. Kessler now down to 19 from an attack. His turn one play was Godless Shrine into Isolated Chapel, so no blue mana just yet. We'll see how much additional pressure Barich can apply. Here's a Goblin Chain Whirler, Kessler to 18, trigger on the Steamkin, and an attack for 3. He'll be at 15.
Well, that was a mouthful because they've played basically 3 turns each in about 30 seconds.
Barich does not play slow.
No. If you watch when she won her Invitational just a year and change ago, that top 8 was probably the fastest top 8 I'd ever seen playing Infect.
Yeah.
Just completely crushed all of her opponents.
So Kessler still with no blue mana, but Oath of Kaya did take down the Steamkin. Here's a second Chain Whirler for Barich, another point off of that, and an attack for 4 as well. We don't have life totals being updated, but I believe Kessler's at 10. Figure out what's going on with those life totals. Yo, Dan, talk to me. Why don't we have life totals?
Sorry, have a good day.
All right, here's an attack for 7 from Barich. Kessler again missed on blue mana. Temple of Silence Scrying was his turn.
Yeah, the missing on blue mana should basically seal the deal. This is pretty bad. Barich is going for a shock upstairs.
My understanding is that shock was putting him to 1, and this shock... Or maybe we have something wrong. All right, I'm seeing a 6 on the screen after 2 shocks, but the game's over now.
That was a fast one.
It was.
Blazing fast start. I was actually just pulling up deck lists, and you were already on turn 3 when I got Barich's deck list on my iPad here.
All right, so yeah, less than 2 minutes into the round. Aaron Barich now up a game over Tom Kessler.
All right, well, there's no way our directors have the sideboards up and ready, so let's just do them manually for now. We're going to have them up on the screen for you as quickly as possible. Our director's getting those in just a moment.
All right. Do you have... okay, here we have sideboards. There it is. Wow. So Tom Kessler is going to need some help. Sideboard here is 3 Kaya's Wrath, 2 Elder Spells, 2 Enter the God Eternals, 2 Duress, 2 Dovin's Veto, a Narset, a Lyra Dawnbringer, a Cry of the Carnarium, and a Bolas's Citadel.
His draw in game 1 was pretty lackluster. No blue mana, stuck with a couple blue cards in hand like Elite Guard Mage and Hostage Taker. 2 spells that are quite good in the matchup, especially for trying to keep parity or just stay alive long enough for your bigger spells to take over the game. I imagine Kessler mulligan and just kind of missed on blue, keeping like a hand with Oath of Kaya in a matchup where he knew that it was going to be an aggressive opponent. From his sideboard here, I think he's going to be bringing Kaya's Wrath for sure. Enter the God Eternals seems quite good as well. Duress I like. Dovin's Veto, not so much. I like tapping out basically every turn, just having answer after answer, as opposed to having to sit on the Dovin's Veto to stop one of those bigger spells like one of the Planeswalkers. I don't like the Narsets in general. I'd probably look at getting rid of those just because it usually just looks at the top 4, puts 1 in your hand, and then immediately dies. Lyra Dawnbringer, obviously slam dunk. Cry of the Carnarium, quite good. Both Citadel, not really where you're at here. You need the cards to do the work for themselves. You don't have the life to expend for the Bolas Citadel.
And so on Barich's side of things, we see that she is playing a pretty unique build of mono red. 1 main deck Experimental Frenzy. That's where you see the 3 additional copies in the sideboard, as well as a mix of cards that Kessler did just lose to in the previous match. So Barich has 2 copies of Chandra Acolyte of Flame, 3 Experimental Frenzies, 3 Fries, 3 Tybalts, and 4 Lava Coils.
As is per usual with the mono red aggro decks, I think Aaron's likely going to be siding out a lot of the cheaper cards and boarding in a lot of the hard-hitting, more expensive cards. I fully expect both Chandras to come in, all 3 Experimental Frenzy. The Fries are pretty good answers to the Planeswalkers to keep them from getting out of control, which ultimately allows your Experimental Frenzies and things like that to take over. Tybalt keeps some of those life gain spells from working, like Elite Guard Mage, but I don't think I want to bring in Lava Coil. There's not enough targets for it, even though Hostage Taker and Elite Guard Mage are likely to show up. I would just focus on those 11 cards, those first 11.
So if you're watching us now on our Twitch channel live, then there's no better time than now to go ahead and subscribe to that channel, because we're coming up on the top 8 of the tournament. That means that if you are a subscriber, you'll be able to vote on the quarterfinal match you want to watch, get yourself the access to those custom emoticons and badges, including the Roll Todd.
Including the Roll Todd, which is a picture of me laughing, and it is quite good. Quite good.
Get that at twitch.tv/SCGTour. It's only $4.99 a month. Plenty of great features there.
Yeah, on top of that, you also don't get any advertisements as far as the Twitch ads are concerned. Obviously, you see, when we talk about our promotions and sales and things like that, but being a subscriber on Twitch nets you basically having no Twitch ads, which is nice.
So players underway in game number 2. Kessler's mana cooperating this time. We'll see what the turn 3 play is. It's an Oath of Kaya, so kind of doing what the deck wants to do in this matchup. Barich started with 2 1-drops, so one of them has now been felled. Just left over with a Fanatical Firebrand.
Yeah, but here's a powerful 3-drop and Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. Chandra going to go ahead and make 2 elemental tokens come in attacking for 3 total damage.
So Kessler will be falling back to 18 from this attack. He'll go back his way, see what he can get on the battlefield. Looks like he's picked up a Hostage Taker. That one's okay.
Yeah, it can take the Fanatical Firebrand and then maybe eventually start pressuring the Acolyte of Flame. But for now, he'd have to shock, it looks like, to play the Hostage Taker. Those 2 life points might end up mattering a lot. Plus, if Barich just has a removal spell for the Hostage Taker, like a Skewer the Critics or some such, then it just kind of takes away his entire turn without much value.
So the play is going to be Teferi Time Raveler, bouncing his own Oath of Kaya, drawing a card.
It's not a bad one, but that does leave the Teferi vulnerable immediately, kind of just cycling there.
There's Goblin Chain Whirler. That easily takes care of it. Kessler to 17. Chandra will make 2 elementals again, attack for 3. Kessler to 14.
Yeah, and even though he's going to end up getting, 6 life here by turn 5, it's going to be a reasonably low life total facing down a pretty decent battlefield from Barich. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, Barich has access to Experimental Frenzy in hand, just looking to kind of empty the hand before deploying it to get full value.
And that's the scary card, especially when you're ahead on board. That Frenzy can just run away with games.
Ooh. It's like a Thought Erasure from Kessler might actually strip those dreams from Barich. Dreams of casting that Experimental Frenzy. One of your better cards here in the Esper matchup.
Let's try with Oath of Kaya. 3 damage to the 4 loyalty Chandra.
Whoa.
It'll go down to 1.
Whoa.
Kessler to 17. I think he's trying to set it up, stealing that Chain Whirler with the Hostage Taker somewhere long term.
That is bold, Cotton.
I don't know, maybe the Firebrand as well. That one would be a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen here is, Tyrant Scorn makes a lot of sense here on the Chain Whirler, and then playing Hostage Taker, stealing the Fanatical Firebrand, and then using that to kill the Chandra Acolyte of Flame. Feels like a pretty sweet setup. It's something that not a lot of people would have seen.
So there was the attack for 3 with the Elementals. Kessler fell to 11. There's the Experimental Frenzy for Barich. Back Kessler's way. Here's Hostage Taker. So the plan, grab the Firebrand, use that on the Chandra. And that's good. That happens.
Yeah, and we don't have to pop the Fanatical Firebrand. We get to attack with us. Got haste.
Yeah, it's pretty effective. Back Barich's way. She'll draw for turn, play a Mountain off the top. Here's an Ember Hauler. Here's a second Ember Hauler.
I love the addition of Ember Hauler in this deck. It was one of my favorite cards in Mono Red a couple years ago out of, I believe it was core set 2012, but don't quote me on that one. It reminds me a lot of Goblin Legionnaire, which I was a huge fan of back in the day.
And you don't even have to play Plains.
Yeah, why would you need planes when you can splash red or just play red?
So the fun stopped there. We go over to Kessler. Here's another Teferi Time Raveler that's going to bounce the Experimental Frenzy.
Yeah, this is a great 1-2 punch for Kessler, being able to deal with the Frenzy permanently by bouncing it. But that Frenzy has gained Barich 3 cards with a Mountain played and 2 Ember Haulers. Still has a Chandra Acolyte of Flame in hand, but nothing to do with it in the graveyard right now. So,
yeah, just a Chandra and 2 Mountains. No attacks from Kessler. We'll go to Barich. Kessler pretty comfortably at 14, and I believe with an Enter the God Eternals in hand.
Well, Enter the God Eternals is quite good.
So Barich is going to play one of those lands, redeploys the Frenzies, cast an Ember Hauler off the top.
Now, pretty interesting, Barich might be playing around the Enter the God Eternals by just like sitting on these Ember Haulers. Seems pretty sweet, but that Experimental Frenzy was an insane draw. But
it's just the best card in the deck by a lot.
Yeah. Well, at least after sideboard here in these kind of grindy matchups, if you're playing against like Feather or decks that are trying, like Mono Blue, they're just trying to fly over you and stuff, Experimental Frenzy is not where you want to be.
Unless it's a good Frenzy.
I mean, unless it's really good. Unless you're like combo killing on 5 with multiple Runaway Steamkins.
So Kessler is going to cast an Elite Guard Mage, gain 3 life and draw a card. Holding off on that Enter the God Eternals for now. Teferi will go up to 2. Godless Shrine tap, so Kessler now at 17. It's like passing back to Barich, who on the end step will use an Ember Hauler to take down the Teferi Time Raveler. Kessler responds with D-Spark on the Experimental Frenzy. So Barich will deploy that Chandra Acolyte of Flame that's been hanging out in the hand for a minute.
Yeah, but no instant sorcerers in the graveyard as of yet. See if Barich picked up one on the draw this turn.
She'll make those 2 elementals with the 0 ability.
And those are attacking in here. Hostage Taker is going to block one. Ember Hauler likely going to trade for the Hostage Taker here post-combat.
And that's how it plays out. Kessler to 16 off the other elemental. And here is the 4th Ember Hauler.
Ember Hauler's looking pretty decent. I can definitely see how it would play well in some scenarios, whereas Vaishnav Pyromancer might be a little more clunky with that 1 toughness facing off against stuff like Risen Reef, Llanowar Elves, things of that nature.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a pretty clean swap between Wizard's Lightning and Skewer the Critics for the most part when you go that route.
Yeah, that makes sense. They both cost 3 mana some of the time.
Right.
1 mana others. All right, so the Elite Guard Mage, here you're seeing why it didn't block last turn. Kessler's going to use that to attack the Chandra. Chandra goes down to 2 loyalty. Here's a Thought Erasure from Kessler.
That's just a 2 mana Surveil 1. Barich empty-handed here. But that Oath of Kaya going to finish off Chandra Acolyte of Flame, and now it's two Ember Haulers versus an Elite Guard Mage and a Fanatical Firebrand, and 1 card from Kessler. Pretty even, but that usually is going to favor the Esper Hero deck because they have so many cards that are just insanely powerful off the top. More copies of things like Teferi Hero of Dominaria, just more expensive cards in general that can kind of chain together.
So Kessler went to 19 there, attack from the Ember Haulers, put him back to 15. He'll attack Barich down to 18 with that Firebrand, plays a land and passes. Back over on Barich's side. Here's a Runaway Steamkin. A little late to the party.
Confirming life totals here, I'm guessing. A tap for 4 from Barich. That's the 3rd Experimental Frenzy. What a peel.
Yeah, Frenzy there grows a Steamkin, now with 1 counter.
White dice on the Steamkin.
Plays a 2nd Steamkin off the top. The first one grows to a 3.
And this is exactly where you want to be if you're in Aaron Barich's shoes. You found your 3rd Frenzy, just basically the perfect top deck, and you're hoping that the Esper Hero opponent can't deal with it, because if you get to untap with multiple copies of Runaway Steamkin and Experimental Frenzy against a mostly empty Esper Hero player, they're going to die in like 2 turns.
Right, yeah. Just gotta solve that Frenzy quickly. We've seen a lot of patience from Kessler on this Enter the God Eternals. He's now going to use it to destroy that 3 toughness Steamkin. Mill Barich for 4, gain 4 life.
We got 2 lands off the top, though, so that means that Barich is a little less likely to whiff on the Frenzy next turn.
Kessler up to 19 off that Enter. But the Experimental Frenzy can be good for plenty of damage.
Yeah.
Firebrand finishes off the other Steamkin, so that's a good bit of progress there.
Barich checks the top of the deck on upkeep to see if it's an instant that she wants to play. Finds a Fry, going to take care of the Guard Mage. Now let's see what's cooking.
So she drew for turn. Here's a tap of 3. It's a Goblin Chain Whirler. Kessler to 18.
And now any 3 damage spell can kill the 4/4. Cleared out from as a blocker.
Runaway Steamkin off the top. Land for turn. Ooh, and
Woo,
there's a lightning
baby.
strike. Say goodbye to your army. Steamkin up to a 2/2. Here's an attack for 4. Kessler to 14. Things suddenly looking very bad on his side of things.
And all it took was drawing the 3rd Experimental Frenzy.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. Kessler able to deal with 2 of them, but the 3rd looks like it might be the nail in the coffin. Now, if he has, Leer Dawnbringer is not too bad, but the 2 Ember Haulers can combine with literally any of the other burn spells in the deck to take care of it.
Yeah, really liking Ember Hauler in this kind of position. Frequently, you're relying heavily on your Frenzy, but Barich, there's a Fanatical Firebrand. Already on the table, she just has 5 damage for the Lyra.
Yeah, we're going to make 3 red mana here from the Steamkin. That's going to allow us to potentially play a lot more spells this turn, but with the requisite damage to just kill the Lyra on the battlefield, I cannot imagine the Kessler's feeling very good about his chances, and so much so that Barich is actually going to shoot one to the dome just to get a cheaper light up the stage.
Yeah, so there is light up the stage, still 2 red floating. With light up the stage on the stack, she'll check the top card of the library. Goblin Chain Whirler and Frenzy, so there's another 1 point of damage there in the Chain Whirler. And here's a Tybalt.
This is a lull. Frenzy's such a busted card sometimes.
Yeah, Barrett's just kind of running up the score here. This would be considered unsportsmanlike in several sports.
Well, I mean, Kessler's not technically dead.
You gotta tap out, man. Fanatical Firebrand, 2 floating mana, another Steamkin on the table. The choking point is just going to be what the top card of the deck is for Frenzy. No shortage on mana for Barich here.
My guess is there's another land right now. Barrett's looking to probably cast this Chain Whirler. That's, making a... Gonna cast this Chain Whirler. That's gonna deal 1 more to the Lyra. Probably gonna pop, but, or not. Never mind. I'm just gonna shut up.
Yeah, made a devil with the Tybalt. Another Tybalt comes off the top. 2 counters on both the Steamkins now. No floating mana. Still 4 lands untapped.
All right, but Chain Whirler can be cast for 3. That puts more counters on the Steamkins that are on the battlefield. The 3 mana from that can activate the 2 Ember Haulers, and that'll be 5 total damage with the Chain Whirler on the Leer Dawnbringer. And then Goblin Chain Whirler, 1 of the Steamkins, and the Get-To Lava Runner and the Fanatical Firebrand can all attack.
So here's another light up the stage. No
okay.
Big deal.
All right, that's fine.
Mountain and a Lava Runner. 6 floating mana made off of the Steamkins. What's the storm count now? Like 8? There's Goblin Chain Whirler.
At least.
Kessler to 12 off that. Steamkin's back for 2. Barich doing a check on cards in library. She's been through quite a few. Another light up the stage. 2 mountains. Steamkin's hanging out on 3 again. 2 red floating. Lightning Strike. Now Lyra is dead. There's been 2 Chain Whirlers. Steamkin's up to 4. Here's that Lava Runner that came off to light up the stage. And yep, now Kessler's seen enough. Aaron Barich, pretty quick 2-0 over Tom Kessler. Will be in the top 8 of this event with Mono Red Aggro. A deck that really didn't get a lot of chatter leading into this weekend.
Can we come back to the booth? Let's come back to the booth. I got a face.
Yeah.
I'm making a face.
He is making a face.
I wanted you to see the face. I wanted it to be natural.
That. I like the direction Barich took the deck, too.
Yeah, obviously, Experimental Frenzy, an all-star in Standard. Very good out of the sideboard here for this lower-to-the-ground version of Mono Red. Ember Hauler look clean. Skewer the Critics look pretty nice. I want to see more of the new cards, though, before I get final judgment on them. Chandra Spitfire's not technically new. It's a reprint from an older set. Not sure how I feel about it, but the damage can really stack up. And if all you're trying to do is goldfish